you ever wondered how to wire an electrical panel? In fact, it is easier than you might think. In most wiring situations, there's a ground, neutral, and hot wire. The hot wire is used for transferring the current to the boxes or lights. The neutral is used for transferring the current back to the source. And the ground wire is tied to the equipment frames in case of a short or ground, which will cause the breaker to trip for your safety. While wiring a panel is a few more steps involved than just connecting wires, it is easier to do than one might think. Some basic steps must be followed to wire an electrical panel. Learning how to connect the 4 wires, a breaker, and running a new circuit are the steps needed to wire an electrical panel. How to connect the 4 wires, how to connect the breakers, and how to run a new circuit. First, how to connect the 4 wires. According to Thiel, the 4 wires include 2 hots, 1 neutral, and 1 ground wire. To give the panel power, you'll have what is called a service entry electrical cable, which encases the wires and the insulation. To hook up the cable to this panel, there must be a hole at the top of the panel for the appropriate size of the cable. You simply take a pair of pliers and knock out the appropriate sized hole. According to electrical code, there must be 1 inch of insulation inside the panel. Now cut off the rest to expose the 4 wires. An average home panel requires 2 hots, 1 neutral, and 1 ground wire. The 2 hots are the red and black wire, the neutral is the white wire, and the ground is the bare aluminum or copper. To connect the wires to the breaker system, cut off enough insulation to go into the lugs, but without insulation going into the lugs. You then tighten down on the lugs. You have now connected the 4 wires. Next, to connect the breakers. Breakers running down a panel are 20 amp breakers. Each breaker has a different circuit. To put them in the panel, you put the back end first and snap the front end. To wire each breaker, you do the same step as before. Take the hot from the circuit and strip off enough insulation to go into the lug inside the breaker. You then take the neutral wire and strip enough insulation to go into the neutral bar. For the ground wire, you do the same as the neutral. Finally, the last step is to run a new circuit. According to Fred, to run a new circuit, there are 3 wires that are used. The black wire is your hot, the white wire is neutral, and the ground wire. When running a circuit, you could be using Romex wire, which is insulation that encases all 3 wires. Or you could use the separate wires. To know where to run in a circuit, you look at the electrical drawings. For example, you might have circuit 30 be the lights in a room. Take the 3 wires that correspond to the circuit and get ready to pull them into a panel. Then you run or pull them down a piece of pipe that connects to the box or the lights to the panel. It is important that you check and make sure that you have the correct size breaker for the load that it is supplying. Now all that is left is to hook the wires up to the breakers as explained previously. Wiring a panel is easier than it may seem. Many people get intimidated dealing with all the different wires and trying to not mess up. That's why you must know the 3 basics before trying yourself. Learn how to connect the 4 wires, learn how to connect the breaker, and learn how to run a new circuit are the steps needed to wire an electrical panel.